Welcome to E2Talks. It's a podcast where we chat about the English language landscape, talking about topics relevant to students like you. In this episode, Jay chats to Abhiram, an E2 language student who recently took PTE academic and IELTS academic. Jay and Abhi discuss the pros and cons of each test and compare their difficulty levels. So, if you need help deciding between PTE academic and IELTS academic, listen carefully for their insider tips on each test. Enjoy.
Abhiram! I love you, man.
Hello, Jared.
It's good to see you back in E2 HQ.
I know. It's always good to be back at E2 HQ.
So tell everyone what you used to do here.
So I was at E2 for close to 2 years. I started off as student support manager and then eventually, started helping out the marketing team. So I was, marketing and sales manager for a year or so with E2 Language.
Nice. Good one. Yes, and you're a great employee. And I was very sad the day that you left. But it also gave us a great opportunity because you needed to take one of these high-stakes English exams. And we thought, right, let's get Abhiram to take both IELTS academic and PTE academic, and we'll do a little comparison, not just of scores, but about the whole thing, the whole shebang, like the test day experience. I want to know about how you felt on test day doing each of the exams. I want to know how you prepared for both of the exams. And at the end, we'll talk about what your scores were, okay?
Sounds like a plan, yeah. I think we'll keep the scores at the end, yeah.
All right, sounds good. So tell me first about test day experience. Like what was it like for PTE and what was it like for IELTS? Because you took computer-based IELTS, right?
That is correct, yeah. I did take the computer-based. And it's, if I'm being honest, it's the first time I took either the PTE or the IELTS. Okay. Because previously I'd taken the TOEFL, but I hadn't taken the PTE or the IELTS. So it was a brand new experience, for taking both of these exams. Yeah. I took the PTE first. Yeah. And, there were a lot of things that, I sort of kept in mind based on the methods or anything else that has been spoken about or what would be the, right way to do this. Yeah. I think the first important thing that I realized was because I booked both my exams in the morning, it helped me, do this right away at the beginning, the starting of the day, and just make sure that I had it out of the way. So, and it also gave me with a very fresh mindset, right? So I had a fresh mind. I was ready. Both my exams were at like 9 a.m. So
are you a morning person?
I'm not a morning person actually, but at least for this scenario, I realized that probably if I had, maybe taken an afternoon slot, considering that I'm a working professional as well as, preparing for an exam simultaneously, if on the offset chance that I didn't get, say, a weekend slot, which is what actually happened with the PTE, I ended up doing it on a weekday. I had to ensure that I actually got it out of the way, and then I could, probably get back to work for the second half of the day. So I ended up taking, a morning slot for the PTE. Yeah. But once I had that experience, I realized that, taking morning exams were actually very helpful, and that helped me make the decision that I'll take the IELTS exam on a morning slot as well.
So our science experiment is good because taking both tests at the same time, nice little design there.
It is,
So talk me through PTE first. How did you wake up? Were you feeling nervous? Were you feeling okay?
I was. I've read, both as a part of E2 and otherwise I've read a lot of stories about how people told me that the PTE would be difficult, how it's a very, smart exam and it will be a completely different ballgame compared to how the TOEFL was previously. And that sort of set the pretext for me to believe that it's not going to be an easy thing at all. And I wasn't wrong. The preparation was quite tough because there are so many structures, there's so many different types of questions. You want to go ahead and make sure that, you're mastering each and every type of questions. You have to balance your preparation time, your work time, your leisure, all of that. And I think it was just a combination of putting all of that together and, making sure that I wasn't going ahead and spending like about 16 hours a day or 12 hours a day trying to remember those concepts, trying to remember what would be the best way to remember, say, a structure for the essay or how to approach a section like describe image, which by far is the most difficult thing I've ever done, on a side note. It was just about understanding if I had this particular concept in my head, then I could take it, I could apply it across different questions. So to me, rather than spending time, doing the concept again and again, I did a dedicated sort of, I dedicated myself to go ahead and look at the concept first, get that in, and spend the next an hour or so to do just the questions.
Do you mean the concept? You mean the method?
The method, yes.
Yes.
So, for example, in the essay, when you say that, you need to have an introduction, a paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and a conclusion, it didn't take me long to, get that concept in my head because, of course, I've been familiar with that over a long period of time. But for someone who took it, for the first time and actually implemented it while writing an essay and practicing, I could see how it might have been somewhat difficult. But as I started writing, say, my second practice question in the essay section, I pretty much got into rhythm.
Yeah.
And I slowly realized that for, every other section that was present in the PTE, maybe, the toughest, again, as you would have heard a lot of times, was the PTE speaking.
Okay, so there are 20 tasks in the PTE and we teach 20 methods. And I've been teaching this for ages, so for me it's easy. It's just like, oh yeah, of course, summarize spoken text, you do this, and listening, multiple choice, multiple answers, you do this. How did you go actually memorizing those 20 methods from E2 language, which are bloody effective, but how did you go memorizing them?
If I'm being honest, the memorization came with the practice, which is what I sort of was highlighting earlier.
Yeah.
So to me, it wasn't, at least the structure that I adopted was not, I need to memorize the concept first. And, only when it's completely in my head, I'll go ahead and do the practice examples.
Nice.
I had a look at it. I understood, if this was a definite structure, this was the method, then I can only improve or adhere to that method by practicing more.
Yeah.
So I understood, the basic overview. I understood what the method actually, says. But as I kept practicing, I wrote my first essay, compared it back to the method, realized I'd missed out on, say, 2 or 3 points. I wrote my second essay, and then I got a little bit better.
Gotcha.
And by the time I reached, say, my fourth essay, I actually knew I was sticking to, the methods that had been described over there. And this is pretty much consistent for all the, 20 tasks that are there in the PTE. I believe, the biggest challenge was actually with regards to speaking, because with the writings, the methods that were provided were, beautifully eloquent, and we could go ahead and get that in your head as you practice. But at speaking, I feel that that's where the more candid, the more subjective element came into play. So even if there is a particular concept, like, say, for example, describe image, where you can break it down to, say, maybe a 4-step or a 5-step method, on test day I would still go ahead and my candid behavior would actually come in.
Like candid, you mean a bit spontaneous?
A bit spontaneous. Yes,
yeah.
there would be something.
You have to, because the image that you see in front of you requires you to be spontaneous and speak in the moment. And as long as you stick to the basic pathway of the method, you're going to be pretty safe.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that's pretty much what I realized as well.
I think what we've done with the methods here is we've taken something really abstract, like describe an image or retell a lecture, or even listening multiple choice. It's an abstract process. Like what's happening with language in your brain is this totally subjective, unconscious behavior that we just do without thinking. And so what we've tried to do is make that abstract nature of that question more concrete and give it some sort of method, step-by-step process to solve it. No, you can't again, there's no solving of it through the method either. It's just a way to approach it, isn't it?
Which is exactly what I realized on test day, that this is not something that you can go ahead and always believe will be the most definite solution.
Yep.
It gives you a way forward.
Yep.
And after that, it needs to be your, aptitude, your
Yes.
IQ as well that comes in.
As much as people learn test prep and do practice questions and learn methods, ultimately, if there's no vocabulary or grammar or your pronunciation's off, it is ultimately a test of English, isn't it? And you find that on test day because you're like...
It is.
Yeah, because you have to speak spontaneously. You can't memorize spoken responses. You cannot memorize anything, really, apart from those approaches.
That is absolutely correct. And at that point, when I did say my first set of questions where I had to be spontaneous or bring in, something that I saw on test day, probably the first time I did that, for the first question as such, I was a little bit intimidated. But as I started realizing that we could go ahead and, I can still make mistakes, I could still think about, okay, is this the right way to do it, and do those quick calculations in my head, I could still bring out, a spontaneous side of me, which helped me say, clear something like a describe image or a retell lecture.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. Okay. And just from the PTE, you said describe image was challenging. Any other sections or tasks that were challenging?
Describe image, as always.
Okay, that one
I've
got
heard.
you.
Yeah.
What about the reading? Did you find the multiple choices? Any particular tasks stump you?
If I'm being honest, along with the describe image, it was retell lecture, because you're not prepared to, really, you're not really ready for what the speaker is going to be discussing about or talking about.
And you're just dropped into a lecture like a dream. Dreams have no beginning or no end. You're just in it, and it's like
exactly. And you just transition from one task to another, and all of a sudden you have someone talking about it.
Yeah.
So even though the concept is just about understanding what someone's saying in that audio clip and going ahead and reproducing that in your own words and paraphrasing it, it is quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? And that's probably one of the sections where there's been a lot of challenge. I mean, that's why there's been a lot of difficulties that I've faced as well, even during practice. So I would start doing a practice question, and then I realize halfway through that, I don't have a conclusion for this. And then I would have to go back to the method, try to understand how conclusions can be drawn up, and then mention that, okay, this is how this will go back to the same question again. So it was just practice to make sure that I could get that on test day.
Excellent. Yeah, cool. Well, you clearly have the requisite English skills. This is not your issue. Your issue is not vocabulary or oral fluency, as I can hear. That's joking. But yeah, your challenge isn't an English language one. So your challenge was really test prep, wasn't it?
It was. And I could relate to it because I feel a lot of students would also, perceive it that way.
Yeah.
It's not the English language test at the end of the day that's the most difficult part.
Okay.
It's actually making sure that you're preparing for it in the right way. You want to make sure that, because for a lot of people, including myself, I took the test because I needed for, say, my immigration. And that's why a lot of people would take these English-based tests.
Yeah.
So when you're taking that, the stakes are automatically higher compared to why you'd say take maybe a general English test otherwise.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you're preparing for it, you're preparing with that, concept at the back of your mind that you want to go ahead and make sure that you clear it in your first attempt.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that it all goes smooth sailing and all of that. So it is the preparation.
I heard today from a testing center that somebody has taken PTE 48 times. This might not be true, by the way. It was a bit of a rumor, but I've also read newspaper articles of people taking IELTS 21 times, for example.
Oh, wow.
It's just, I just find it staggering. That's even if you took it 5 times or 10 times or 15 times, it's staggering that people don't find some sort of intervention and think, maybe I should actually work on, maybe.
I guess so. But at the end of the day, it's just about the preparation.
Yeah.
If you're able to get through with your preparation, you should be having no problems on test day.
Yeah.
And as someone who took, both the PTE and the IELTS for the first time, it was the preparation that made the difference.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that I took the PTE first, if I'm being honest, I wasn't really confident that I had done actually well.
Okay.
But yeah, because that made me doubt my preparation. I thought that, okay, maybe I could have done this better. I could have done that better.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get, I'm going to miss marks in these sections.
Yeah.
So you will have that, but it's all about the preparation at the end of the day.
Good one. All right. Then you went and took IELTS academic. How long after your PTE test?
So I gave myself a month because
nice.
it took, between the PTE and the IELTS, it's
Yeah.
approximately a month. Couple of reasons for that. One, I had to, focus on work commitments, obviously.
Yeah.
And the second was I wanted to find a convenient slot, because if it was something that I had to take, say, maybe on a weekday and it wasn't fitting with my timings, that would have, not worked out for me.
Yeah.
So I was actually fortunate enough to find a slot on the weekend on a Saturday morning.
Nice.
And because it's a computerized IELTS, I managed to get the speaking on the same day as well.
Nice.
So it was Saturday morning. I took my IELTS academic. And what do I say? I think it was just a different experience altogether.
Okay. Just before we talk about the test itself and the test tasks and sections and stuff, both are quite, how would you say, they're quite pleasant experiences, right, in terms of the testing centres, the small numbers. This is my experience anyway. It was quite a pleasant experience. And what I'm comparing it to is the paper-based IELTS, which I've taken, which was an unpleasant experience in my opinion, especially once I took it at the Melbourne Convention Centre, and I think there was like 600 people, big lines waiting to go to the bathroom. It was like, during the test was a total pain. So in short, these computer-based tests have made the psychological experience of test taking a lot better. Do you agree?
Oh, it is. And I think just to add on to that, one of the things was when I had the chance to interact with other test takers who were there, most of them were working professionals. Yeah?
Okay,
They were either taking it, say, for example, because the profession needed something like that.
Yeah.
Or, they were already working professionals, just wanted to go ahead and study. Now, when you're working for about 4 or 5 years and you're really used to typing on the computer, and you suddenly have to take a paper-based test, that wasn't going to work, because a couple of them who were there had actually taken the paper-based first.
Yeah.
And when they knew that the computerized IELTS had come in,
Yeah.
they were really happy with how it actually turned out.
Yeah.
So I think that played a big difference, because if you're having a lot of working professionals taking the computerized IELTS, it's actually very easy for them. They're used to typing. I was used to typing. I was very comfortable typing.
Yeah.
And I could possibly imagine if I had to sit there and write
In a grey lead pencil, by the way.
that wouldn't have been, something that I would have wanted to do. So the computerized IELTS is actually a boon.
Yeah. In many ways, it makes the writing section much easier compared to handwriting an essay with a pencil, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I'm glad those days are numbered, which is cool. Okay, so all right, let's talk through the IELTS test then. How was your experience of the IELTS? Let's go through each section. You start with listening. How was listening?
Listening was straightforward, because the methods that were prescribed, the methods that I studied, very straightforward, to the point, easy to understand from E2's perspective. On test day, it wasn't, if I'm being honest, it wasn't as intimidating as, what happened in the PTE, because the PTE is slightly more intense. Right?
Well, there's a big difference. The PTE uses authentic lecture materials, right? So you might get a bit of Noam Chomsky talking about, American politics, and then you get some physicist talking about kinetic energy, and, it's full on. The IELTS listening is inauthentic. These are scripted items. They're not from real life, which makes it easier.
It makes it easier, but I think IELTS is starting to make it slightly more difficult.
Okay.
They're trying to, see ways in which people need to be actually on top of their listening game. For example, some of the names might be very complicated. You can have, someone like, say, Sean, which is a name, but it could be spelled as SEAN. So you really need to be on top of your listening end, because if you miss that and you think you can come back later and write it, you might remember Sean, but you might just write, say, maybe SHAWN.
And IELTS is the master of distractors. So it'll be,
They have plenty of distractors.
Oh, yeah. So it'll be a multiple choice. And all three of the options will be mentioned. And they sort of pull you in one direction. You think, and then, no, hang on,
For me, a couple of questions just came down to, one word or two words that were different, but everything else as a part of those options were the same.
Yeah.
So, listening was pretty good. It was just about, making sure that I really paid attention.
Yeah, it is. It's an attention game, isn't it?
It is. And you miss one of the words, and you just have to go back and, I think it was this, and you just have to put that in there.
Oh, because if you daydream for a second, you think, what am I going to have for lunch? Oh, you've missed one.
And it's easy to do that, because we're all humans. We do that at the end of the day. So I did that too for, a couple of questions. But I pretty much realized I had to, by the end of the first question that happened, I was like, I knew I had to do this. The good thing about IELTS, from, what I've seen as a test taker, is it's very guided, especially in terms of, you do have your exam invigilators who are there throughout every section of the test.
Yeah.
So you will go ahead and, have them telling you, yes, you're not going to commence the writing section.
Yeah.
You're going to have so-and-so to do this. No bathroom breaks, no this, no taking food, all of that. So throughout the course of the test, it was actually very helpful to have someone there who guide you.
Yeah.
But with the PTE, that's the only thing that I can think of where,
Okay.
because you just, for me, one example that I can think of is when I went ahead and I started clicking through the first few screens, you record your voice,
Yeah.
and then next thing you know, you're suddenly in the test,
Yes.
right?
I would actually, that's one of my criticisms of PTE is there's no distinction between the tasks.
Exactly.
You go from multiple choice, single answer, and whoop, now I'm in multiple choice, multiple answers, and it didn't tell me. Like, they should put a little screen
Yes.
between them going, okay, now you're doing reorder paragraph. Because
Correct.
then you'd be like, all right, rock and roll.
And then you see a timer ticking, and that's it. You sweat, you become nervous, and that's what happened with speaking as well. So
Yeah.
describe image, retell lecture.
Yeah, so IELTS is very well organized and mapped out. You know
it's
exactly
paced
where
out
you
very
are.
well.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. What about the reading section?
So reading was advantageous, I would say, because one of the nicest things is when you do the E2 method that you see, you'll know that automatically when you're looking for the answer for at least most of the questions, it is in chronological order.
Yes, that's
right?
helpful.
Which is one of the first things that the method describes.
Yeah.
So you look at that, and then if you're able to master that, you should be able to get through reading.
Yeah.
There are no, from
Yeah.
what I remember, there are no complicated words
Yeah.
that actually need, a massive knowledge of vocabulary. No complicated long words.
Yeah.
Easy to understand. Again, the main thing is the distractors, because you want to look, for that right sentence,
Yeah.
but you can be led astray.
It's just ultimately it's a meaning. It's a really good test of meaning, actually. I think the
Correct.
reading section. And there's no vocabulary that's like, whoa, what does that word mean? It's quite common vocabulary, but it really does get you to read carefully.
You have to read very carefully. Yes.
Cool. All right, and then let's talk about the writing section.
Well, I've heard so many stories about writing.
Including my stories.
I've read a lot of stories about writing, and I went in with that added pressure because I was.
Yeah.
To me, it was like
And you're doing academic. You're doing-
academic.
yes.
And you're looking at writing task 1, writing task 2, and there's an explanation where that task 2 carries double the marks of task 1, and all of those things have to be kept in mind. So you need to frame all of your answers in the writing section perfectly.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, I actually thought, I did pretty well. I looked at the band descriptors.
Yep.
I saw, the structure, the approach, how I can, stay true to those band descriptors, have grammar, vocabulary in there. And I actually, check my IELTS essay more number of times than I actually did check my PTE essay.
Yep.
I'm always, check essays. I would never do that previously. But for these exams, because of the things that were at stake, I always made sure that I check my essays, help me remove a couple of errors.
Yep.
Although I realized later that I did make some errors. But yeah, with the IELTS, I actually, triple checked my essay. But still, I felt that at the end of all of this, if my scores are going to go low, then I just cannot, do anything about it. So
Yeah.
I did accept that and made sure that I had to, be my best for IELTS writing.
Yeah.
And being academic, I had to make sure that, I was on top of my game talking about, say, different parameters that I can see, say, for example, on the graphs.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And-
that task 1 is
Yeah,
that's tough.
Task 1 is tricky because, you suddenly realize, and that's the thing that I was thinking at the back of my head, because I'd already taken the PTE first and I was doing the IELTS.
Yeah.
The IELTS writing task is as difficult as the PTE speaking. And task 1 is just like the described image that you see in the PTE. And that also helped me sort of frame the way I would be writing that essay.
Yeah.
Because, in described image, you have that particular method. You start off with an introduction,
Yeah.
point 1,
Nice.
point 2, point
Yeah.
3. I thought I could implement the same
Oh.
for IELTS as well. So that's a little bit of the spontaneity thing that came out.
I wonder how that went for you. We'll soon find out. Interesting. Yeah. Writing, IELTS writing is notoriously challenging. Notoriously challenging. Perhaps a little too challenging. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. Speaking, just quickly, how'd you go?
Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, isn't
Pretty
it?
straightforward. Having that human intervention, I can see why it can be, very advantageous, because when you realize that you're going to be using your English in everyday working communication, you're going to be talking to another person.
Yeah.
And when you see them, realizing that, okay, I'm able to understand what he's saying,
Yeah.
it was okay. So
Yeah.
it was pretty good. I had a really good examiner who was patient to explain everything.
Yeah.
Pretty
the
smooth.
Yeah, okay, I agree. The speaking's pretty straightforward. All right, cool. Well, let's do the big reveal, shall we? We'll drum roll.
Okay, which one do we
And
start with?
Let's start with PTE.
Okay.
Yeah. So, can I read them out?
Yes, go for it.
So, PTE, of course, is out of 90. That's a maximum score you can get. So, listening, 90. Well done. Reading, 90. Well done. Speaking, 90. Writing, 87. 87. Look, honestly, they are phenomenal scores. You missed 3 points out of...
I know. And if I'm being honest, I think I did one of the most trivial mistakes, which I realize now.
What the mistake was. Okay. Yeah.
So the trivial mistake that I'm pretty sure a lot of people would do, and which would be very common, is I keep remembering, one of these videos where you've mentioned, do not interchange spellings. If you're using Z's, stick with the Z's. If you're using the S's, use the S's. So I'm pretty sure at some place instead of spelling realize, I've put it with a Z, and in the other place I've put something else with an S.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, because spelling in PT, I've seen a lot of report cards, and people often get very low scores in spelling but can still get 90 in writing. So the weightage for spelling, my inference is that it doesn't weigh very much in terms of points.
Possibly. But to me, consciously, I think that's the mistake that I did. Not stick to, say, one format of spellings.
Yeah, do stick to one format for sure. But that's good that it doesn't carry much weightage, because we live in a society where you don't really need to worry that much about spelling. So in terms of communication, honestly. So that's good. Grammar 88, so you missed a couple of marks. When I took my PT, I got 88 for grammar as well. So I remember writing a particular sentence called an inversion sentence, which is like one of those sentences that there are blah, blah, blah. Have you ever seen one of those?
Yes.
Because I thought I'd be smart to the computer, but then the computer, I'm pretty sure that was it that penalised me for that one. So that's pretty phenomenal. Oral fluency 90, pronunciation 90, written discourse, which is the essay structure. So I'm glad you wrote that second one, 90. Fantastic. So, and vocab 85. So yeah, a couple of points off in your enabling skills, but really, you're happy with those scores?
I am. I mean, I don't think I could have done better, honestly.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of the insights that I sort of got, which relates to the point that I was talking about earlier. It's okay to believe that maybe you didn't do as well, but if you're stuck to the method on test day, you're giving your best, then it really shouldn't be difficult to, get your 79 plus that's required.
Yeah.
And I can honestly admit that I did hesitate in one or two places, but I was confident enough with my answers, and that helped, push my scores.
Yeah, they allow hesitations and ums and ahs. Not too many, of course, but it's supposed to be natural spoken English, and people and ah naturally anyway. So fantastic, great PT scores. You've definitely got your immigration numbers there. IELTS, ready?
No. No, let's do that.
So IELTS is scored out of 9. So listening, 9. Well done. Where are we going to go? Let's go to speaking. Speaking, 8.5. Cool, fine. That's great. You're not a native English speaker, so that is, that's a great score. Reading, 8, which is totally understandable. I think, honestly, I've taken IELTS Academic 3, 4, 5 times. 5 times. I've only got 9 twice, 3 times. Each time I've been 8.5 or 9. So and that means you've missed one question or two, I think two questions, and then you go down half a band score.
Okay.
So they're pretty brutal with their scoring. So reading 8. Writing. Do you want to say it? You say it. I'll say it.
Believe it or not. Go for it.
6.5. Which is pretty interesting because, I've worked with you for a number of years and I saw your writing. And I imagine you did prepare properly. Like I don't know why you would get a 6.5. Did you think about challenging that score?
Well, I wanted to, but then, when I went ahead and thought of what could have possibly gone wrong, I'm thinking, I know my task 1 was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I'm very certain that I lost marks in task 2, which is something, that's actually one of the big insights, because there's the essay question that I got in task 2 was not a standard one at all.
So, do you remember it? What was it?
Yes, I actually do.
Yeah.
Okay, so how we always have, a problem statement.
Yeah.
And then you need to give, say maybe either discuss both sides and give your opinion.
Okay, yes.
Right? Something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
To me, I had 2 problem statements.
Oh.
And then I had, write the advantages, disadvantages, right?
Oh.
So what I think would have gone wrong, what I feel would have gone wrong is that I might have gone off on a tangent.
Oh.
So here's my problem question, all right?
Yeah.
The increasing number of large out-of-town departmental stores are, causing problems for small stores that are in town centers.
Okay.
This means that more people will have to use their cars
Oh.
to go to these out-of-town stores.
Okay, all right, keep going.
Right?
Yeah.
Discuss on why this would be advantageous or not.
What? Advantageous? The out of...
Exactly. So there was a bit of the ambiguity in there.
Oh.
And it could mean that, when I first read, I thought, okay, I just have to talk about, why town center stores are better than, say, out-of-town stores.
Yeah.
But then as I continued reading the question, suddenly to me, it's like, wait, does he want me to compare? Is it, going to be on the lines of pollution, traffic, using the cars? Cars are becoming more affordable.
Yeah.
Where do I go? Where do I start? So
Yeah.
to me, honestly, I think that's where I went off on a tangent.
Yeah, yeah.
And because writing task 2 is double the points of writing task 1.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, you probably got punished for task achievement there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's full on. Like you really, it is with that. It is a bit of a luck of the draw. Well,
It is.
that one sounds particularly hard. That actually sounds a little bit.
It is. And when I saw it, I really tried to think back about, the different types of essays that you'd, spoken about in the videos. What's the best way to approach them?
Yeah, I don't think we've got a methods lesson on that.
And then I suddenly realized that, hang on, this again, bring out the spontaneity at the end of all of this. So it just became, what I could achieve at that particular time.
Yeah.
I mean, I did use the methods. I did use, whatever I could remember from the videos, the methods, method videos. But I largely had to go ahead and, put my spontaneous thinking in there.
Well, what can you do there? That's tough. That almost requires like an 8-paragraph essay in order to cover everything and talk about the pros and cons of driving cars and the pros and cons of large retailers.
So all of that.
Oh,
yeah.
tricky.
It is.
All right.
I mean, although the topic was very relatable, like it's something that you can, see in a real life world. It's not something that you have to think very deeply about.
Yeah.
I just believe that it's just about
the idea generation's not the issue.
correct. It's just about making sure you're not task achievement, as you mentioned.
Yes. Yeah, that you're writing on topic. That you're answering that. Cool. All right. Any takeaways, Abhiram? What would your words of wisdom be? Your recommendations for people aspiring for an IELTS 8 or a PTE 79?
The only thing that at the end of all of this is, it's not about preparing in a very intense fashion. It's about preparing with a plan. So you need to go ahead and tell yourself that I'll plan this out. Planning does not mean you're going to study 16 hours a day to do this.
Yeah.
You follow the methods.
Yeah.
You go ahead and, you practice. And be it PTE or IELTS or any other English-based exam, you should be able to crack it.
Yeah.
So to me, it was about getting my, preparation executed in the right way.
Yeah.
And it did help out of the PTE eventually, but IELTS not so much.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with the way I sort of, planned this out. With the addition of, the method videos, understanding how I can do those practice questions with E2, that's the best part of, knowing that there's some quality sort of practice material out there, which you can use in order to go ahead and boost your preparation.
Yeah, one of the things that distinguishes us from a lot of other preparation providers is our methods, our methodologies, because we've thought through all of these. Well, obviously not that last essay you got, but
that was
almost all
yeah.
of the different tasks that you'll get, a step-by-step approach to each one. And that's incredibly helpful, because often with this stuff, it is a matter of just taking that abstraction and then making it more concrete and giving it a stepwise fashion. Cool, man. All right. So what are you going to do with your results?
Well, I've got my scores at the PTE, so
Yeah.
I think next steps will involve, getting the immigration part of it sorted. So maybe file my expression of interest.
Yeah.
Hopefully get a PR before my current visa runs out. And stay in this beautiful, beautiful city.
Lovely.
So,
Fantastic. And you'd be surprised how many people leave it to the last minute to get their scores. And my visa's about to expire. Please don't do that. If you're listening to this. Start preparing now. Take a test, or even better, take our mini mock test or our mock test on e2language.com just to get an idea of what your scores might be, and then you can prepare from there. And don't, honestly, some people have 2 weeks to go and I needed 79, I only got a 46, and
At the end of all of this, guys, listen to Jay. He knows.
All right, we should leave it there. Thank you very much, Abhiram.
Thanks for listening to E2 Talks. Remember to check out e2language.com for PTE and IELTS courses. Also, check out e2school.com for general English language learning. Thanks.